promised, we are joined by analyst for the Houston Rockets, former NBA vet, Ryan Hollins. Ryan, thanks for joining us, man. How you doing?
Doing good, guys. How you doing?
Good. Let's just start here. You know, we're celebrating the Warriors, just a crazy victory last night where they go on to beat the fully loaded Clippers. Obviously, the Warriors missing Andrew Wiggins and Steph Curry, where Warriors come back from down 11 in the first half to basically beating the brakes off the Clippers in the second half. Want to get your thoughts on what we're seeing from the Warriors. Should Dub Nation pump our brakes, or are you starting to see this team get hot again?
You know, it's obviously going to be an adjustment plan without Curry. That's huge. And, you know, we swept, you know, in Houston, we got to see Golden State the other day. But when you have Draymond back, you got Klay, culture always wins out. You're going to have a chance in games with culture. And I think the goal is obviously once Steph gets back, you're always going to have a chance. And I don't think anybody in the NBA right now other than, you know, Phoenix figuring out how to play with each other and being healthy, that you really just say, well, they're head and shoulders better than what we have. And, you know, in all reality, you got enough defenders in the lineup with Wiggins that can you can manufacture ways to guard a team like Phoenix. And then they got to tell you that they're more of a team than you are in Golden State. So I think you do want to temper expectations, but you always have to have that idea that this is a team that can go all the way. And you know what? Let's just sneak in. Let's go and surprise some people. I think that has to be the mentality.
Ryan, keep up the good work. I tuned in, you and my friend Mario Ellie on the Rocket postgame, so you was doing a good job. Keep it up. You played the game. You saw I don't want to say the tribulations of Klay Thompson, but when Barkley made his comments about him being done, I'm going to be honest, Ryan, I didn't know, he could get back to this plateau. Are you shocked where Klay's at now? And can you be honest with us to tell us if you thought, you know what, he couldn't reach these heights again?
Nah, Klay is crazy. Like, y'all gonna say Klay is crazy. Like, you can't put limitations on a crazy basketball player or crazy person in life. And when I say crazy, I say it the good way. Like, Klay doesn't know he tore his ACL and the Achilles. And Klay is just a hooper. He doesn't have any extra expectations for himself than what he's doing right now. So is he going to be declared old? No. You think he's going to chase the other team's point guard 94 feet like you were used to seeing him do prior to the injury? No. But he can give you a big bucket. He can step up when needed, and, you got to account for him on the floor. So he's just a winner. Like, some guys get it, and I think that I love the way that Golden State has been able to keep their core intact with Curry, Klay, and Draymond, and then just subtly complement and add the youth in. Develop a Jordan Poole. Make a play for Wiggins. The guy nobody wants, but we want him. We're going to turn him into an all-star. So they've done a great job there to where you don't lean on Klay the same way, but he's the second greatest shooter of all time. I say that without a blink. I say that with no hesitation. Klay Thompson is the second greatest shooter we've ever seen play the game of basketball. So, no, he's too crazy to count out.
We're talking to NBA vet and analyst for the Houston Rockets, Ryan Hollins. Ryan, earlier in the show, we were talking about load management and how it can be a little bit confusing because you got guys like Steph Curry saying, hey, it's management telling us that we can't play. And then you got a situation with the Clippers where Kawhi comes out and says, I'm not going to play. Paul George says it depends on how I feel in the morning when I wake up. What are your thoughts on this whole issue of load management and how the NBA is handling it? And from when you were playing, was it a thing? And how much of this is on the teams and organizations versus the players? How much leeway is this? Break down your thoughts on load management.
For one, I'm never, as a former player, going to tell a guy whether he's hurt or not or whether he should play or not. That's his own personal business.
Mm-hmm.
But for two, I stand somewhere in between. In the NBA that I played in, I've seen guys be pressured to play when they weren't ready to play, and I've seen careers get ended because they weren't healthy. That's something that, popped up and happened, and as a ball player, as your own brand, your own corporation, entity, whatever you are, because as a player you have to be comfortable with being on the floor. And when you're injured and you can't play or you can't perform, it's going to fall on you. So you don't want to be rushed out there. And I do think there's an element where guys take advantage in today's NBA. And we get too sensitive, and at the end of the day, it's just basketball. You're never going to be 100%. It's part of the game. And I think the rules are obviously different. A 19, 20-year-old guy should be out there on the floor playing. They should be itching to play. Hey, man, you hit that 28, 29, 30 range, your body stops working the same way. So I do think that it would be advantageous for the league and for players to get out there and play more and play through stuff. Hey, I remember the days when practice used to be so hard, you wanted the game to be happening because we were getting it after it, whether it was a game or not.
Wow.
Now, maybe was that going to be best, but I was excited. A game was like a rest day. That's how much we got after it. I think it's a little bit of both. I like that players are progressive. They understand their brands. I understand their bodies. And I think, I take some of the advice I was given when I was young, advice, hindrance, discipline, whatever it was. Don't come to me the day of the game saying that you don't feel good. Don't come to me saying your knee is sore. You should have been getting treatment all week long. You should have been taking care of your body. So if you are going to be a guy that sits out, you got to be the first one in there getting treatment. You got to be taking care of yourself. And if you're a megastar, you got to be trapped. So you got to have a guy who that's your massage guy. That's your warm-up guy. You got to have those resources available because, you are a $1 million, multi-million-dollar product, so you got to take care of yourself. And you're not going to have compassion, and I'm not in the locker room with any of these guys, but as a former player, when I saw it for a guy who ain't taking care of himself and then he can't play, that's a problem, or somebody not playing up to standards because they didn't address an issue until it was too late.
Ryan, my partner and I are blessed to be doing what we love. We're not former players like yourself. So when I ask you this question, it's based off of what's been reported. I want to get your thoughts on the Western Conference, but mainly what's going on in Memphis with Ja Morant. And I'm not going to call it a rap sheet, but for this conversation, I will with these alleged, incidents. You know what it takes to play and remain in the league. What would you tell Ja? And how are you, reacting to these alleged incidents?
I think for the one thing, especially on our side, when we see and we hear the word alleged, we can't really speak because we don't know what happened in situations. But I think in terms of Ja, he has a real potential. He's one of those guys we look at and we were getting excited for. And I don't want to say that we're done, but saying that, hey man, he could be the face of the league. He's got the charisma. He's got the swagger. He's got the game. There's a lot behind him, and I think that sometimes if you're Ja, it's important to minimize distraction. And I know sometimes we get to the league. I came from the hood. I did that. I got partners. You don't hear about them. You don't talk about them. Sometimes you have to separate yourself, protect yourself, and when you love people, it doesn't mean that you sometimes have to limit the way that they are in your life. And I hope that whatever this deal is, he's able to put behind him. And when we hear alleged, we don't know. And I think that he has a name that's box office and he can really step forward. And, we've all been young. And the one thing that's important also, when you are that $1 million brand, you have to surround yourself with people that understand that and that people are going to protect you. And that Ja isn't, but this is the advice. When I speak to the rookies or I speak to, the teams or speak to guys, this is the same advice that I give them. They got to understand who they are. When you step into a situation, it's magnified 10 times because of who these guys are. They're not seeing, even though these are just kids, man. What is Ja, 22, 23, whatever? They're not seeing him as a young kid, as a young man, as a great kid. They're seeing Ja Morant. They're just seeing millions of dollars walking around. They're seeing the big personality that he has. So he's got to be 2 and 3 steps removed from any of these situations because whether it's him or whether it's not him, he's too big of you got to protect yourself. And I think, like I said earlier, the biggest thing is alleged. There's a lot alleged there, man. We're human, man. We've all had situations. Ain't none of us got perfect past or perfect future. Just life happens sometimes. But I think what's important with him, he should be in. He's getting to that stage. I'll just say this. I'll leave you on this.